Thank you so much, Ed, for the kind introduction and welcome. You know, I think we would all agree just kind of sharing this space together and in the company of so many who are dedicated to making an impact on the social, health, and environmental challenges across the Southland that not only does this uplift, but it also gives us hope. And as a public servant for almost 40 years, and now serving as vice chair of the California Democratic Party, you know, being in this space of bold ideas and big dreams and new possibilities is, I believe, the antidote to so many of the ills that we are experiencing and witnessing around us. Widening inequality, looking at housing affordability, environmental degradation, systemic racism, division and hatred, political polarization, gun violence, drought, war, and so much more. And the social isolation and trauma that has ensued because of these challenges. And this is the brilliance of Pando. This really is the brilliance of Pando. Yes, the brilliance is of the young developing minds that we are just seeing before our very eyes, taking by storm so many of the challenges that they are seeing and living every day. But what also I think needs not be lost is the fact that we have so many institutions and supports that are here, that all are declaring together that we can and we will build a better and brighter Los Angeles. And that power of that vision, and the power of that vision where everyone can see themselves in it, thriving, is really the power of Pando. And all of us are here because we subscribe to that. We subscribe to that as Angelenos, but frankly, I subscribe to it not being an Angeleno because I happen to think that what Pando is doing, they're onto something even more importantly that is going to do wonders for us as a society. And that is they are incubating how to build a healthier democracy. Yes. And when I talk about this, and I will say first at the outset, this is not a political speech. But as someone who is a daughter of immigrant parents, who really felt that she had the best opportunities growing up in this great state of California, and looking at those opportunities really escaping so many of our communities today. The hope and the brilliance of Pando is about how we rebuild this democracy together. And I will say, too, that what Pando is also going to do, having been a public servant for 40 years, is that you are all going to change up how we govern for the future. Because governing happens right here on the ground. Governing happens when we can have the broadest engagement among those who are living these challenges. And governance is great because I think for all of the issues that we are hearing about that our young people are putting their minds to, we often hear that term, think globally, act locally. I think we're going to change that up where we're actually thinking locally, acting locally, and knowing because we are Pando that our impact will be spreading globally. And this is where I think the power that is in this room, the brilliance of John Cobb, of Eugene Shirley, so many others who just have this vision for Pando, can't be understated. And when I talk about democracy, I think about also just all of the institutions that have carried us as a democracy. And for me, most importantly, as someone who didn't speak English until she entered kindergarten, our public education system. How we are learning today is going to matter in terms of how we are going to rebuild this democracy. And when we see so many of our institutions being threatened, we have to be innovative about what these new models of learning are going to be. And so I'm so happy that educational impact is one of the pillars of Pando. It is essential for our democracy to know that our young people are going to be exposed in ways where they can think about how to be discerning. They can think about their place in our communities and in our society. They can think about, with discernment, who is actually working in concert with their own interests and looking to better their lot in life. And when we see these attacks on our democracy, this is not a political issue. This is very much a global issue that is affecting all of society. And when we have a blueprint to work with, like our sustainability plan of Los Angeles County, This is what gives me great promise, because not only are we looking to incubate democracy, but we really are bettering the world at the same time. Because we know that we do this work now with tremendous urgency, that there is no luxury now of thinking linearly, that everything we do has to have a triple, quadruple bottom line. And as we deliver these results, as we have these projects that we're hearing about come to scale, as we see how broad our reach can be with these initiatives that our young people are putting together, there is nothing that can stop us. Because what really has broken down with respect to our democracy and why our institutions are being threatened is because there is a breakdown in trust. There's a fundamental breakdown in trust. And yet, how we are rebuilding that is really by ground truthing everything that Pando is doing. That everything that we are looking at that is coming out as initiatives from Pando is, yes, being informed by science, yes, being informed by research, but being very much informed by the experiences and backgrounds and histories of the very people right here in the Southland. And no one can take that away from us. That is the power. That is the power of the root ball of Pando, and that is the power of how we are going to change the world, beginning right here in the Southland. And I hope all of you feel that way too. Because where I see changes in governance that really is going to help with this whole idea that we are going to incubate making our democracy healthier and stronger, is this whole idea of, I'm going to just take a riff from the late John Lewis. And you remember John Lewis used to always talk about, fondly, Rosa Parks reminding him of getting into good trouble. That if we were seeing any injustice or unfairness or just something that wasn't right, and both of them saw a lot that wasn't right in their world around them, that we had an obligation to speak up. We had an obligation to act on that. And so I just like to say that when he talked about getting into good trouble, as he spoke fondly of Rosa Parks, I'm going to just suggest that we get back into good governance. And good governance starts right here in our communities by the very people who are witnessing what is happening around us and have the knowledge and the power and the capacity to really create positive change. And with the multi-sectoral support that is here, we know that we will accelerate, we will elevate, we will come to scale, and this will be the model for the rest of the world. California is still looked to as the place where innovation starts. And yes, we are trendsetters, but now our challenge is how do we really deliver for positive change for so many communities that if we don't think about doing so, we'll be further left behind. And this is our challenge for not just this century, but actually is our challenge today. It is that urgent. And we have the tools around us to do this. And I think about good governance, first and foremost, about how we engage the broadest array of people who have something to say about what we're trying to solve. And I'm a huge believer of proximate leadership. Those closest to the issues and challenges being felt are probably going to be the best architects of the solutions. And we are meeting so many of you here today. I also believe that when we are inviting transparency to the work that we do, when we understand that we are living and working in an era of finite resources, that the one resource that is not finite is all of us. It is our brain trust. It is our human potential. It is our human resources. This is everything that we bring to the table with the desire to make things better. When I look at the issue of equity and how all of our work now needs to be centered on equity, it is about every single person having an opportunity to improve or maintain their well-being. And this will come naturally in terms of the work that you do, because, as I said, we don't have the luxury of thinking linearly about how we incorporate all of these things. And when we can start with what is being experienced on the ground on up, that will come naturally. And something that I really take to heart, because you all asked it of me as I served as your controller, and that is, we ought not be afraid of inviting strict accountability for what we do. Because this is the hallmark of a democracy. There is room for feedback, there's room for criticism, there's room for improvement, and there's always room for constructive dialogue. And when we can put ourselves in this space of where we understand that the work that we do has impact beyond just the very communities that we are a part of, there is nothing that can stop us. Nothing. And the one thing I will just end with is this, because it was something that I know all of us felt here, but also as I think about just the work that Pando does, we've talked a lot about interconnectedness today. And yes, that is what the Pando and the aspen tree is about. All of the many trunks and roots that are interconnected. But as I think about what it means in terms of our daily work and our daily lives, it is the fact, and I think it was heightened during the pandemic, but it will not stop because we are out of the pandemic, and that is each of us is essential to the other. What I love about Pando and why this incubator will work is that everyone in this room is an equal peer. Is an equal peer. There is no power with position or title. We share power, and we share power coming with a declaration that we share, that we will and we must build a better Los Angeles. So I am inspired, I am uplifted, and I know the reach of Pando will be across the globe. And I am so taken by all of the young people here today. And you don't even have any idea at this point, but you will soon, about just how impactful your work is. I have been doing water work for the last 5 years. I founded a evaluating water finance initiative for a nonprofit on which I serve. And we have been really trying to get the apparel industry to pay attention for a very, very long time. A water-intensive industry. You all are taking it by storm. And this is where it needs to begin. So please continue the work. Know that you are the architects of how we are going to rebuild our democracy, and the world will be watching, because whether it's new democracies, broken democracies, those who are at war now, who are going to need to think about what their democracies look like the day after, they're going to be watching, and they're going to be watching all of you. Thank you so much for all you do to make this such a much more hopeful place to be in the Southland, but more importantly, for just taking on the responsibility of repairing our world. Thank you so much.